Welcome to this episode of Resilient Voices. And have you ever felt like you don't belong anywhere? Then you will relate to this woman, Nadege. She comes from two backgrounds, French and German, and she never felt like she belonged in either of them completely. She was forced by her parents into choosing a career path that wasn't her own. But then eventually, moving away far from her parents, she made a decision that she wanted to do something completely different, and she leveraged that feeling of non-belonging to helping others, and especially companies, to work with the cultural integration and how different cultures affect people in their lives. So let's dive straight into Nadege's story today. Welcome to this episode of Resilient Voices, and we have an inspiring guest with us today. A warm welcome to Nadege. So happy to have you here.
Thank you, Jessica. I'm very happy to be here with you and happy to share my story with our listeners, with your listeners.
Yeah, really looking forward to this conversation.
Me too.
So, how are you today? Yeah.
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah. I came a bit early to visit Ericeira, and it's really calmed me down. It's beautiful, so ready for today.
That's good. So you came from Lisbon, did you?
I did, yes, correct.
Yeah. Nice, welcome. So why don't you just share your story, or where you want to sort of, where you start, wherever you feel like it's appropriate for
right. So
where you want to start, really.
Okay, so just a little bit of background. I'm half French, half German. And growing up, and still till today, people feel like, okay, who are you? Are you French or are you German? So I had this my whole life. And at some point, I came to the realization, but why do I need to be one or the other, right? And why do I need to fit a mold or to go through a path that is expected of me, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why, I'll talk about why I changed my career and the hurdles I had. But this is why I decided to go into the intercultural field, because there are many more third culture kids like me who don't know where they belong. And so, I do what I do to inspire them. But if you hear the story behind it, I'm sure others can relate as well. Right?
Yeah. Please start with that. So if you want to start with your challenges then, as being what brought you into the path you're now on then.
Okay. So the challenge is I grew up, I had a beautiful childhood. I grew up both in France and Germany. And, being the eldest in the family, there were certain expectations of me, like follow a certain career that would be either in business, in finance, or medicine.
Okay.
So because I was not so good in school, right, because that was not my priority, of course, medicine and economy kind of fell out of the of the picture. But then I was told to do a bachelor's in international finance, right? So
that was not your own choice. It
was not my own choice. Okay. Because I, at the time, wanted to go into what we call hôtellerie, hospitality. And it was a huge no. How are you going to earn your life by cooking for people?
Okay.
So I said, all right, then, I will do the BA. So I went to France, I studied 4 years, got my BA, and then this is not enough, you also need a master's. Okay, so I moved to Spain. I did a master's in global risk management. And after that, I moved back to Germany to start my career in finance. So I worked at the time for Siemens Financial Services on the telecom side. And, for me, it was like, okay, I did my job, was paid well, but it was not something that, when you have in your gut, you're like, I'm passionate about it. I was not. So I was doing it for the reason that, it's good money. I keep the peace at home. Everyone is happy because I'm following the path.
Everyone but you then.
Exactly. Everyone but myself. And it's funny because my sister had to go through the same. So she was following. She's younger.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll tell you what changed afterwards.
Yeah.
So I stayed about 3 years in Munich doing my job. And then our company had a joint venture with Nokia. So I was sent out to Singapore. So as you may know, in Germany, you work to live. Right.
Yeah,
so you earn your money and you live your life. But in Singapore, it was very different because you live to work. So first of all, I had a lot of culture shock because, in Asia, they work differently. And so I started to get curious. That's interesting because in Europe, we do things this way, but here they do it that way. So I got curious. However, on the other hand, I got a lot of stress because there were a lot of responsibility, a lot of demands, office politics, and I started to get migraines constantly. I was not feeling well. I was upset all the time. I was not happy, basically. I lost myself.
Yeah.
And so I started to explore the intercultural field. I found a mentor. And she showed me the ropes. And I said, you know what? This is what I want to do. So I started chatting to my parents. And I said, this is what I want to do. Well, who's going to pay for this? And I said, well, you'd be surprised who would pay for that, right?
Yeah.
And so because I had resistance, I said, you know what? I'm just going to write an email and explain why I want to do this.
Yeah.
So I did. And then they said, well, you do what you want. We support you, whatever you decide. And I thought, all right.
That was a good email then.
That was a very good email, very empathetic in my own tone, just explaining the rationale, which was, I'm not happy. I'm sick all the time. I get migraines. And at 30, this is not normal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I said, yes, I'm leaving a good job that is super well paid, but I'm willing to take the risk to have a better mental health balance. Right? And so I gave my resignation.
How did that feel?
Really empowering.
Yeah.
Really. And it's at that moment that I learned, you know what, actually you can say no to people.
Yeah.
I was always the people pleaser. And even people came and they said, oh, it's such a shame you're leaving because you did everything for us. And I thought, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I see what is really happening, right?
So, and then you turned it around and started to say yes to yourself and no to everyone else. Or
absolutely,
well
because
done.
I said now is about me, right?
Yeah.
So, of course, I said I'm coming back to Europe, but I need to do something in the intercultural field. So I looked at different programs, different masters in Europe. There was one in Rotterdam that was specific to the intercultural field, but I had to pass the GMAT.
Which one? What
GMAT is an American test that you pass,
Oh, yeah.
Of course, I failed miserably, but that was okay, And then I found another one, which I thought, you know what, that's amazing, was in London, and it was a course in business psychology. And I thought, well, culture is just one aspect of who we are, right?
Yeah.
And I love to learn about people. So if I can also understand the psychology, that would be an asset. So off I went to London.
Nice.
And it's interesting because I had lived for a few years on my own, and I moved in with my parents because they were living there at the time. Right? So I lived, I studied, I got to know the city a little bit more. I graduated, and then I was like, right, now, Nadege, you need to start your business, right? And having, when you're used to having your 9 to 5, having the security of your check coming every end of the month, I didn't have that. So I had to start from scratch. Where do I want to go? What is my vision?
Yeah.
What are the values that I want to promote in what I do? And how do I get work?
Yeah, because it was never a question about you finding an employment with your new training, your new degree. you had set your mind to, I'm going to do this my way, myself.
Yes. Exactly.
All
exactly.
right.
Which is why I had resistance.
Oh, yeah.
Who's going to pay for that?
Yeah.
Well, you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
So off I went. You know, being an introvert, I had to network. My goodness, that is, you know, a huge thing. So I went off to networking events, and I had people telling me, oh, yeah, but intercultural, what are you talking about? We are all humans. We all understand each other. And I thought, okay, probably is not the right audience for me, right?
Yeah.
These kind of older men that have achieved a high position in their company, they cannot understand that, you know, might be generational. So then I started approaching training companies.
Okay. Yeah.
Intercultural training companies. And I sent my resume and I shared my experiences. And I said, hey, if you ever need someone to deliver training on these cultures, let me know. I'd be happy to do that. And one guy, Neil, actually, I'm really grateful to him. He saw my resume and he said, Nadege, actually, we have a project. We don't have anyone that knows about this culture, which at the time was Malaysia. So he gave me my first gig.
Wow.
And from there, he continued hiring me. And a few years after, I guess word of mouth spread. So other companies started to hire me for different projects.
Yeah.
And that was amazing. But I had to go through a year and a half of struggle to find my foot, to put my feet in the door, to network with the right or not right people. So learning a lot from that. And then I learned as well that when Brexit hit in the UK, all of a sudden companies stopped expatriations. Companies stopped investing in trainings.
When was this? 2024?
That was 2016.
16, yeah.
2016,
So, yeah.
around there.
Yeah.
And so that is when things went a bit more difficult because I said it's a good thing that, you know, I was brought up in a certain way to always have money aside. So I had that money aside that helped me go through these months that were really empty. But I said, okay, these months are empty. Instead of stressing out, let me do more courses. So that's where I diversified a little bit. I did constellations, which I can use as well with my expats or coaches. And I just started to grow a little bit my comfort zone, exploring other things so that I would have more assets for my business. Yeah.
That's nice. But tell me, Nadege, what was the biggest obstacle for you? Was it being in, like, choosing your own path to begin with? Like say no to your parents, I'm not going to continue this? That was one.
Yeah, well, that was the major one.
That was the major one.
That was the huge one because
Yeah.
for me, again, I was conditioned in a certain way. And this is also my personality. I do as I am told, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, everything is already thought for me, so I'm just going to follow it.
Oh, yeah.
And the struggle was to break the pattern. And this is what happened in Singapore. Being far away from everything, I had the time to reflect for myself. I said, do you want to continue your life like this, be miserable, you know, on your own, far away from everyone else, earning well but not enjoying it, right?
Yeah.
And your health declines. And I said, no, I need to break the pattern and do what excites me. And every day I wake up and I'm excited, you know, because I do what I love and I work with people, which is what I wanted to do from the beginning.
Yeah, and that was never an option. That was never on the table when you were choosing your career.
No. Yeah, because it would not make enough money, right? And so when you break the pattern in saying it's not about the money, it's about how I feel.
Yeah.
And it's about how I see myself in the world. I don't need, for what?
Yeah, because in the end, what counts, I think that a bit what you're talking about is about I mean, obviously enjoy life once you're in it. Wake up happy and feel like you have a passion and that you're doing something meaningful that sort of fits into your personality and your what sort of ignites you. But then at the end of life, what matters? What can you bring? What do you bring with you when you leave this life?
A bit like a legacy, right?
Yeah.
What will you be remembered for?
Yeah.
I always say, do I want to have written on my tombstone, oh, she did really well, she earned a lot of money, or do I want she was happy and she made a difference in people's lives?
Yeah, when you say it like that, that it's not so difficult to answer that question, is it?
No, it's not. And I love my parents, and they were really supportive once I started. Like when I had the difficult times, they were there to kind of step in when it was really, really difficult. And I do appreciate, especially my mom. She's always been on my side. My dad now, he understands what I'm doing. So again, I suspect a lot of us TCKs, but also any other children whose parents want the best for them, we know that we need to show and prove that what we are doing is worthwhile.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so once this is understood, you get the additional support.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but then actually starting this business, that was also telling me, you said that you were an introvert. So that was was that the second obstacle that you had to overcome, or did you what did you face in between that you?
No, that's a very good point. Yeah, that was one of the obstacles, obviously, because putting myself out there, going to networking events was really taxing.
Yeah.
Especially when you kind of were met with people that didn't really resonate with it and kept saying, is nonsense what you are doing. And I was like, am I really doing the right thing here? Because I keep hearing that, So were my parents, was my dad right that no one wants it? And then I thought, take a step back and see what else there is.
Yeah.
And I did take that step back, and then I found the right groups to network with.
Yeah.
Right.
Because isn't that quite normal that we do that we actually, when something is not working for us, we're pointing at ourselves, like say, what am I doing wrong here?
Exactly.
Instead of, okay, maybe it's not me, maybe it's the context, maybe it's something else, but it's just so common that we look at ourselves and say, okay, there's something wrong with me.
It's the imposter syndrome as well, right? Because you look at others that do the same thing as you, and you think, you know what, they are older, they lived in more countries than you, and they do that, they are so inspiring, and you think, I cannot be this, So you put added pressure on yourself because you want to be like them.
Yeah.
But then you learn with time, it's not about, no one has the experience I have.
Yeah.
No one went through what I went through, right? Most are not third culture kids, so they don't understand when people feel the need to put you in a box.
Yeah, yeah.
So you don't have that issue. And also constant thinking, well, which one am I? Am I French? Am I German? Because as a kid, it does bother you because you think, why are the French rejecting me? Why are the Germans rejecting me? And so then, as you bypass, what makes you uncomfortable, like the networking and putting yourself out there and the confidence, that was what I was lacking.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's why I started with therapy and all these things, which helped find my own voice, right? And say, well, you're not everyone else, you are you. So what makes you you?
Yeah.
And when you find your strength, right, then Yeah. You say, well, they do this, but they don't do it my way.
Yeah.
And then it's just a question of who it resonates with, right?
Yeah. And you will always find your people, is that right? It's like, because I'm really a big, what do we say? Proponent, is that what it's called?
Advocate, no?
Yeah, advocate. Yeah, thank you. Sometimes this with not having English as a first language is a bit challenging. But you talk about competition. I've never seen it that way, and especially I think in the field of women, and when we talk about there's a lot of competition, and we're sort of really not helping each other and supporting each other, and this is. There's enough for everyone. We live in abundance, and you will always, even if you and I would work with within the same field, you will attract some people to work with you, and some will choose to work with me, and that's just how it goes. So there's enough for everyone, and to collaborate, to support. I think that's how we grow. That's how we're made to flourish and grow. Absolutely. And expand.
And it's interesting because when I started, we had like a collective for the intercultural field, and everyone said, "Oh, but if you're not sure about something, you can ask me." And when the time came, all of a sudden they disappear.
Yeah.
And mostly women. And I thought, well, if I can't trust a woman, who can I trust, right?
Yeah.
And so for many years, I could only trust myself. And this is another thing, right, that our listeners should be aware of, is not to be afraid to ask for support or for help.
No.
Right? So for many years, I didn't do that. And it added a lot of pressure until I found the right tribe.
Yeah.
And slowly, I learned, because I would give all the time. And people would say, but take as well. I said, no, I can do it myself. But how do you want to grow, right?
Yeah.
If you always do yourself, you also need other perspectives, which is very true.
Yeah.
And you need to also rely on others, And this opened a new world. And this is really recent, it's 5 years. The whole other 10 years, I was doing everything myself.
Yeah.
And that is... And I suspect a lot of women that have their own business can, empathize with that, because you're carrying a lot on your shoulders.
Oh, yeah.
Your own expectations, but also expectations of others.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And, the societal, the expectations and pressure that you then bring in to become your own quite often, it's a heavy backpack, heavy load to carry. And just to sort of open up and invite more, because I think that is especially when you work on your own. If you're like your own consultant, you're like a solo entrepreneur. You need to fit and find your tribe. You need to find that support system where you can actually bounce ideas and to work in teams. It's a way it's important to find those people, even though you don't actually perform work together, but in become creative and exchange ideas, and it's about 1 + 1 is not 2, is it? It's a lot. It's exponential, isn't it?
It's exponential, and also it's so inspiring when you surround yourself with your tribe, And I have to say, since I came to Lisbon 6 months ago, I'm really grateful I met you, Marianne, Emma, and Nihal, because in the UK, I didn't have a similar tribe.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, my God, these women have gone through similar things as I have. They are working for themselves, they are striving. What can I learn from them?
Yeah.
Which wisdom, and how can I help as well?
Yeah.
Right? And this is the beauty of it. And I wonder if energy works there as well. London... I left London because for me the energy was not right anymore. There was no creativity anymore, and I said I need a change.
Yeah.
And since I came here, surrounding myself with you ladies, and also, connecting with nature and following my path, following my voice, I said I'm so much more creative. The ideas just download. Yeah. I write them down, and I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do. Yeah. The rest of my life, really, because it's amazing.
That's so beautiful to hear, and I totally believe that it's the case. If you look at London or many of the big cities, with New York as well, I think, without having without being there, is very much a masculine energy, very much like you go for results, you go for you achieve things. There's the pace that you deliver. You work in a different way, and I think that's the typical masculine energy. And when you come into, like you say, connect more with nature, a different energy, this more spiritual energy, the more softer energy, that's where I think that creativity grows and flows. And especially as well, if you find, people that you can collaborate with, that you can exchange ideas with, that also brings something special to your ideas and your life's work, because that's what you're here for, isn't it? To create some sort of legacy, to make a difference in that the world is a better place because you've been in it.
Yes. And my mission is really to create more inclusion. Especially in societies, in organizations, because we talk about diversity, but at the end of the day, diversity, you can have the whole rainbow in a picture, but does this mean that your rainbow is inclusive?
Yeah.
Not necessarily, right?
Yeah.
So, and I always say I'm driving inclusion one person at a time.
Yeah.
And I can see the difference before and after a training. I can see when people open their eyes and say, oh my God, yes, I connected on a human level and this is so powerful.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Because what we're more, if we look at people and cultures and races and nationalities, whatever, it's more that binds us together than that separates us.
Exactly.
We're all human beings. So it is just a bit like those programs from the beginning, that we have ideas, and that's just sort of, it's the box. Yeah. And, those boxes need to be, so that's what you do,
exactly.
to open up those boxes and let the light in and just sort of
explore and just connect with what is out there. Really.
Yeah.
Give it another dimension in a way, right? To move out of the box and wanting to put everyone in boxes. Of course, is easy.
Yeah,
it's more easier to fit someone in a box and say, well, that's how they're going to react. This is how they're going to work. But the reality is it's not that easy because we don't all fit the boxes.
Yeah. And do we want that?
No, we don't, right?
Because that's pretty boring, isn't it? If everyone looks the same, act the same, that would not be especially exciting and it wouldn't bring so much to us, would it?
No, not at all. I think this is the beauty of what makes us human, is our uniqueness. You know?
Yeah. So when we talk about resilience, because this is really what this is, the podcast is about. And what would you say, what does resilience mean to you?
So resilience for me means, so I see it, if you imagine a palm tree, right? So the palm tree, when there is a storm, it might go a little bit on the floor and then it bounces back up. Yeah. And resilience is this for me, right? So my whole life was the palm tree bending and then coming back up and bending and back up. And it will always be that way because, life is not steady. You will always get a bit of storm. Yeah. And I think we need to equip ourselves to face those storms. And when you face a storm, don't doubt yourself. I think this is the biggest lesson I took from it. Because when I started doubting myself, I realized that the universe, for some reason, was like, nope, Linda, you're not going to get more work because you're not yourself. And as soon as I bounced back, this is where then, visibility is back on. People see you. And I think this is never doubt yourself. If you have a calling, if you know that this is the legacy that you want to bring to the world, be strong. We are all going to face storms in one way or another. But don't ever doubt yourself.
That's beautiful advice. But Nadege, how do you do that then? What is do you have like a toolbox? How do
Yes,
you work with that? Yeah.
I have my therapists for that.
Yeah. So what is your advice then to the listeners?
I would say surround yourself with someone that can help you get through the motions. Like when I was in the, let's say, when my palm tree
was lying
down,
Yeah.
I spoke about it. What is happening inside of me? Why am I doubting myself?
Yeah.
Find someone that not only challenges you about your self-talk, but also encourages you to explore. Okay, go deeper with this.
Yeah.
And, you know, I did the breath work with Marianne, and you do the breath work yourself as well. This has helped me immensely when I came to Lisbon, because I was a bit lost at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then connecting with yourself at a deeper level and having that support. If you can have it, I think this was key for me, because otherwise I would still be on the floor and not back up. So we can't really do it on our own. We might be very strong, but one thing I learned is, yes, I can carry a lot on my shoulders, but I also need someone to take some of the load off.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it's a matter of time, I guess, as well. I mean, you can carry a lot on your shoulders for a while, but eventually you're if you don't have anyone that's taking some of the load, you're going to not going to make it, because of you. There's a certain amount of strength that we do have, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have inner strength, but to be honest with you, I hear people say, yeah, I can do it all by myself. It's just a period. I said, yes, but if you learn to release, if you learn to connect with yourself on a deeper level, believe me, it's life-changing.
Yeah.
Because when you hit that bottom, you know, you can go and see a Marianne, you can go and see a Jessica, and then see what is happening inside of you.
Yeah.
Sitting with that feeling.
Yeah.
You know, why is it I'm doubting myself? What's happening here? And then you can see all the past conditioning. So how do we release this conditioning?
Yeah.
Or that little voice that said, I told you you wouldn't make it in this field, right?
Yeah. And then not listen to that voice, and also sort of say, I hear you, but I don't believe you, because that's not true, because that's a story that doesn't come from me, because I know that I have all it takes, because everyone does.
Everyone does, but you need that support,
Yeah.
you know. I know a lot who say I can do it by myself. I said, okay, but how long is it sustainable for?
Yeah.
And it's really important to get that support.
Yeah.
Because, yes, we are strong, but there are moments where we can't get back up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a problem where we talk about the mental health issues today as well, which what you talked about when you were in Singapore, that eventually that caught up with you, and you got like that your unhappiness of doing what you did eventually had not only the mental problems, but actually got physical problems. Yes. And that's a very strong signal from the body. But and eventually,
migraines.
The migraines. Eventually, that's going to happen when we make when we don't listen to the signals.
And this, I guess, is something we learn with life, right?
Yeah.
To listen to our bodies.
Yeah.
You would have told me that when I was 30 and I switched career, I would have said, what nonsense is that, right?
Yeah.
But then I learned, you know, eventually I was told, but maybe you should explore a little bit deeper, do a constellation to see what is blocking you. And that's why I was fascinated by the constellation work. Yeah. And that's why I became a facilitator. Because I thought that's super powerful, because you can understand what is actually hindering you. It's not you, it's from the past, your ancestors.
It's your ancestors, because that is brought down to you by the DNA and everything.
Yes. And you don't choose it.
No, because that's something that's the baggage. So if you don't offload the baggage, your backpack, it will hinder you in your life. Yeah, and there's so many tools. So this with constellation, is that something you can you work with?
I do work with. Sometimes when I notice there is a barrier or a hurdle that I cannot overcome, I have like an individual set. So I kind of ask what's happening. Yeah. And sometimes I can see it's either in the messaging or is myself not putting myself out there. So it's really interesting. And then, as I said, for me, what is really important is the breath work. So I go back to you or Marianne for breath work. Even Nihal, she does that.
Yeah,
So when I feel I need grounding, is what I do. I get the answer.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way to connect with yourself and also balance your nervous system because and get back into your body.
Exactly.
Because it's for those who know me know that I use the word mind fuck quite a lot, where the mind is fucking us up really because it's not serving us. I mean, we can't do without intelligence, but the intelligence of the heart, and if we listen inwards, that is going to guide us in a much better way than if we only listen to our thoughts.
I do agree.
Because our thoughts come from the past. And if we're not aware enough about where they come from, they may come from your ancestors, and that may not be beneficial for you.
No, exactly.
So, and also we got this biological issue, I think, we're actually, survival is what we're rigged for survival, not really to be happy.
No,
but we don't really need, I mean, in most parts of the world, but there are parts of the world where obviously feeding yourself and feeding your family is sort of basic needs still. But in the world that most of us live in the Western world and in the industrialized world, obviously that's baseline is already cared for, so we can actually evolve and step into to actually search for happiness.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. And that's the thing, I think, if you feel a calling, listen to your intuition.
Yeah.
Listen to that little voice when you wake up in the morning and you're doing your thing, listen to it.
Yeah.
Wither the storm, get some support there, or even talk to someone, or do breath work, connect with your body.
Yeah.
But don't listen to that inner saboteur that is telling you, auto-destruction, it's not going to help you. So, we all have doubts. We've all faced it.
Yeah.
But we need to find the strength to carry on for that. Yeah.
That's beautiful advice. And also, is it that the case that are you like ready, done with the work? Are you sort of with yourself? Is that
I think is a constant, you never stop working on yourself,
Yeah.
And I'm so curious. I've always been fascinated with the human being, with the mind, with the energies, with the constellations and the ancestors. Even now I'm getting a bit nerdy. I'm looking at astrology, How does that align, but because I find it fascinating. How do we find the patterns? How can we get to understand ourselves at a much deeper level?
Yeah.
Because I believe once I understand myself at a deeper level, I can, switch off the mind, right? That is telling me things, switch it off and know that these thoughts are coming because of past experiences or ancestors or whatever is not what is actually happening.
Yeah.
And I believe this is a constant work. You never stop working on yourself.
Yeah, because we've got the ability to take our past with us. We have our memories, our past experiences, and they obviously will be there. But it's not like, okay, but just because one thing happened to me once in my life doesn't mean that this is going to happen again. So that's with constantly working with that and reflect with that. I think that is what you're saying as well, that you need some, I think you need some space to really not hear your thoughts, but connect with your inner world in a way that, in a different way. And also, like you say, the curiosity to explore and research other modalities, perspectives. Because I don't know what your thoughts about that, but we do live in we're not our body. We live in a body.
We do. I do believe that as well. It's just our vessel,
Yeah.
It's our vessel here for a certain amount of time, right?
Which means that we don't really know what else there is.
Yes.
So to explore that and be curious about that.
Especially when you look at astrology, is looking back, right, at how they used to do it before civilization came, before religion came and all of that. So it's kind of, I believe there is a movement now of connecting more with nature, connecting more with ancestral ways.
Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful. We can learn so much from that.
Yeah, yeah. A bit back to basic, or because I think what you're saying as well is this: there's so much in our past that we've forgotten. The connection with nature, where we come from to begin with. Maybe not just you and I, but if we look back. Generations back, and what was important then, this with herbal medicine, and we've got so many examples of that. So I think there is a movement of actually moving back a bit towards nature and back to more like basics. I don't know if that's the right word, but
I think for this is going back to basics and not living in the modern world that is pushing a lot of things onto us, expectations, and you need to have the latest model of this, you know. I think that's the right one, going back to basics, stripping it down. That's beautifully said.
So this was, I think we could continue this conversation like the whole afternoon here, but I think that's where we need to sort of wrap it up and just, so your advice to, sharing your story and your, you actually, the cultural experience that you had, you took what could have been your, what sort of not been a advantage for you, and made it into your advantage. And that's where you built your new, purpose-driven life and business, but it didn't come without challenges. But that also creates the resilience and also connect that what you've used, the tools you've used, as a lot of inner work and also actually the support system around. And finding your tribe, and whatever that is.
Exactly, whatever that is. Can be your healing community, it can be your partners, it can be your family, it can be your network.
It could also be connecting to, listening to all sorts of podcasts and get maybe you don't need to know these people personally. It may not be, but just connect with that and listen and reflect on that, and knowing that it's a journey with no destination, really. It's just, it is a lifelong journey where we continue growing and learn.
And never stop learning.
Never stop learning. And sometimes the palm tree is lying down, and it could be for a short period or for a longer period. But the main thing then is that when you're resilient enough, then the palm tree will stand up again, and then you can keep on moving until the next time the palm tree is. So it is like a flow in life where maybe you stay shorter periods of time with the palm tree lying down.
Yeah, because we learn to be flexible and pivoting, right? We can sense when this period is going to come, and we can kind of redirect, you know. This with time is what you learn, is that you can always redirect. So it's about, being flexible, pivoting, also using your learning to kind of shift a little bit or add something to it, you know. As I said, you grow, you learn, and you can bring this to the table to help your clients, to help your community. So
because then your own experience become that added depth to your what you can bring to your clients or the people, your community. Exactly. So you can also use your experience in that way to deepen your knowledge and what you can bring to the world.
Absolutely.
This is so beautiful. Thank you so much, Nadege. I'm just so much inspiration, so many nuggets here, and just really thank you for sharing this. And I know there's a lot more to share. And you work mainly with women?
With women, with men. With teams.
With teams. Well. So we will obviously share your details in the pod for people, women or men, that wants to connect with you and are curious about what you're doing, and obviously been inspired by you and maybe want to follow along and curious about where your journey is going to take you.
Yes.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
curious as well.
Yeah, we don't know that, do we?
Don't know.
We don't know. So thank you so much for joining us today. And in our next episode, we will be hearing from another inspiring woman, of course, because we only speak to inspiring women here. And there's going to be a story as well on how you can actually change your, just take those experiences, those challenges and obstacles in your life and make that into a purpose-built life and build resilience. So until next time, just be shining and look after yourself. So bye for now. I encourage you to subscribe to Resilient Voices and follow along on social media, where we'll be sharing updates, resources, and stories from our growing community of resilient women. And if you ever feel inspired or have a story to share, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to hear from you. You can also use the hashtag Resilient Voices to connect with other listeners who are on their own journeys of transformation.